Welcome to Real Estate Exposed, helping people in San Diego buy, sell, and refinance their biggest investment, delivering you timely truths, exposing important issues, and helping you get into the right home. Here are your hosts, real estate expert Daniel Beer, top-ranked professional by sales volume at one of San Diego's largest brokerages, and his mortgage partner, Todd Pianin, with over $2 billion in funded loans.
Good morning, San Diego. Hope it's a wonderful Sunday for you. It's a wonderful Sunday for me. My partner, Dan Beer, is out learning again at another seminar out in the field, so I can't wait to find out next week what he's going to talk to us about. But lucky for us, we have my co-host in the studio today is Joe McShane from the Dan Beer Group. He's the listing specialist on the team. Happy Sunday to you, Joe.
Happy Sunday to you too, Todd. I'm looking at the clock right now, and the countdown has begun. We are officially 1 week away from the beginning of All Things Glorious.
I know, all things football.
All things football.
My draft was on Friday. I'm not going to let anyone know who I picked in my rounds. I'll just keep that a secret. And you said your draft you're actually a late draft.
I'm a late draft.
Right before the first game.
Right before the first game.
Oh,
so
that's actually pretty cool. Actually,
I'm not going to miss any of the injuries.
What do you think about this? This Bosa finally signed. He's off the fence. We're pretty excited about that. Mikey, are you excited about Bosa signing? No, Mikey's not too excited.
He's not excited in the least bit.
Yeah.
Well, it's exciting for San Diego. I mean, it was essentially the stories that were coming out about, hey, we're the laughing stock with this and the draft pick. And they finally got him.
Right.
And, it's good for Bosa because if Bosa doesn't sign, what's he going to do? Go back to the draft next year? He's not going to get drafted 3. It's going to affect his paycheck. But they got him, and so far all reports have been that he looks fantastic in practice.
Did he get what he wanted? Because didn't he want all 3 years up front or something?
Yeah, I think they were offering him 85% of his bonus, and he was fighting for that last 15. I'm not sure all of the exact details on it, but from what I read, Bosa came back to the table after Telesco basically said, hey.
Well, Tom's a client of yours,
yes,
by the way.
Is.
So
yes.
And a client of mine. Dan sold him his house, so Tom's a good guy.
But I did get to see the San Diego Football Chargers play last Sunday.
Yeah, because you were on vacation in Minnesota, right?
I was on vacation in Minnesota for the stadium opener at U.S. Bank Stadium.
So you got to see what a brand new stadium looks like.
I got to see what a brand new stadium looks like, and let me tell you, I have never seen more staff at a stadium because everybody had no idea where they were going. And hopefully, San Diego, you get to have that experience in a few years.
Right.
But it's pretty unique when there's 66,000 people that come to watch a preseason game. And Melvin Gordon looked fantastic, by the way.
They all look. I mean, it's
Gordon took a 50-yard run to the house. It was and Gordon didn't score a single touchdown last year, but he looked really good in that game. Rivers looked good. For my Vikings, bad news came on Tuesday when Teddy Bridgewater was injured.
Well, my team too got bad news this week.
What was your team's bad news?
Well, Tony Romo, he's out for 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah, Tony Romo, that backup, he looks so good.
His backup looks great.
I didn't realize Tony Romo was 36 years old.
Yeah, he's an old guy, and this is their year to win the Super Bowl, and this is our one shot, I think.
Should we continue on Sports Talk Radio? Should we talk about the real estate market?
We probably should talk about what everyone came in to listen to. I just want you guys to know you're listening to News Radio 600 KOGO. You're here with me, Todd Pianin from Home Street Bank. It's Todd and Taisha. We also got Joe McShane from the Daniel Beer Group here from Keller Williams. You can reach either one of us at 800-676-2420. Again, 800-676-2420. Or if you've missed any episodes, we have a podcast on iTunes. We are also, on Facebook. You can reach us through the, last time Brian was here. Brian is your buyer specialist. Brian and I got a whole bunch of people tracking us down via email, so it was pretty exciting. So that was pretty cool. But let's talk about what's going on in San Diego. I mean, Joe, what, the Union Tribune came out on the 30th and basically said that San Diego is the highest priced percentage growth or something like that, or what exactly did they say, Joe?
So essentially it just says that San Diego County had the biggest home price increase in California in the last 12 months. Of course, adjusted for seasonal swings in San Diego County and San Francisco, it jumped 6.4%.
So what do you think about that?
Well, I think that it says two things, right? It says that there's still a ton of people that want to move here, and there's a ton of demand. specifically for San Diego.
Right.
Right. And we have, contrary to any popular beliefs out there, we have a year-round market here. We don't hunker down for the winter like, when I was in Minnesota. That's not a sale season.
Right.
People want to move here at all times, so it makes the market very attractive. But if we look at this, like the biggest home price increase, well, yeah, that means that people are willing to spend a good amount of money.
But also
on
our
homes.
prices are lower than like Los Angeles and Newport and
Correct.
Parts of Orange County. So I mean, when you're talking about median price increase, I mean, you're 6% on $431,000 is only $24,000.
It is. And I think
Right.
that there was also a report that came out that the average median price for a home in San Jose, and I forget the article that had this, the median price for a home in San Jose right now, $1 million.
So yeah,
So, I mean, if you take a look at all of California and you take a look at how unique San Diego is,
it's more affordable.
it's much more affordable.
Right.
Right. And in the grand scheme of things, you think of California and it's like, well, geez, San Diego's the most affordable, but it's also one of the more attractive places and one of the largest cities that we have in the state.
So what do you think about this? You think this is going to continue? I mean, Dan and I have been saying some things on the radio, and I just want to know now, as part of the team of the Dan Beer Group over at Keller Williams.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what's your feeling? Are we going to still see this continued, price increase?
Well, I think that what we're going to have is there's always a gap when you have a shift in the marketplace that I talked about a couple of weeks ago with you and Brian, that Dan's talked about, that you've been a part of. Just because this article came out in the San Diego Union Tribune doesn't mean that that's the word of God. This wasn't brought down from the mount.
Aren't they always like late to the game, Joe?
Absolutely.
I mean, media seems to be like late to the game. And Dan even called this like a month ago or 2 months ago. He said, you watch, we're going to see articles that are going to come out saying that prices are still rising. And when you and Dan have called that we are in the beginning of I don't know, we want to call it a frothing market, a slowing down market.
Just a traditional shift that you see in real estate.
Right.
And we're a little bit burned by the last one we saw because it was a complete collapse.
Right.
But this is just a shift. And what happens in that shift, and why you're seeing like the media say this, is because, yeah, the numbers are indicating certain things. But if you look month by month, we're down 6.3% from what we did in June and July. And we're going to get the August numbers shortly as well. Now, why are housing prices still going up? Well, because everything the market is saying is that in the last 12 months, it's done this, this, and this. But realistically,
So volume is down.
volume is down.
Month over month.
Right. Volume is
And we're
down.
in a traditional purchase market, basically, right now.
Not yet. Well,
We're in summer. That's people
Right, in the-
people
yes,
think,
exactly.
and Dan,
We're in the
and-
traditional. Yes.
and Dan and I and you and
Agreed.
Brian all agree that San Diego is a beautiful town, and you can buy a home all 12 months of the year, and you actually do better buying a home in the fall and the spring, winter and spring, than you can necessarily because you have less properties on the market. I mean, Dan's run those statistics. He's told us those statistics.
But correct. But regardless of all these statistics that we have right now, and you're spot on with what you just said, what happens in this shift is sellers have an expectation of price based on what has happened over a period of time. Now, when a shift occurs, sellers don't necessarily see that the way that we do because we operate at a certain volume. So we have a good viewpoint of exactly what's
volume.
going on.
Let's talk volume. Number one in the county for transactions, and either number one or number two in dollar volume in the county. I mean, we're not we're talking to pretty much the people that run the county.
Well,
I say that. Dan doesn't like me to talk him up that much, but you guys are doing an incredible job.
But seeing as how it's real estate exposed, I not to be braggadocious, but yeah, we do that, right? So we see a lot and we know what's going on, which brings me to the conclusion of sellers have an expectation of the price they're going to get based on what has happened before and what their friends, their neighbors, their families have done. But buyers dictate what they're going to pay for a home. So if a seller prices their home after reading this article, like, oh, everything's fine,
Right.
and it just sits there, what you have is a situation where it's irrefutable that there is a shift that is occurring.
So when you go on a listing appointment, are people saying, I just read the San Diego Union Tribune article that says that values are up 6.1%. So my neighbor just sold their house for $410,000. So now I want to list my house for $434,000.
Certainly, you run into that, and then you have a conversation like, do you want to price ahead of the market, or do you want to price behind the market?
Right.
Because your neighbor got $410,000, but if we look at when they listed, there was one other home on the market. We have 4 homes on the market that are trying to do the exact same, they're using the exact same logic that you're mentioning right now,
Right.
and they are not selling. And what's going to eventually happen is one of them will discount their price, thus setting the new bar for the market, and you're just going to continue to play catch up with them. and the next group of properties that come onto the market. So you can either price ahead of them and sell at a price that isn't that 435 with a 6% increase,
Right.
or you can continue to chase and chase and chase and chase, or just hold until the market rebounds sometime in the next 4 to 8 years when your property has gone all the way back up to the value that it was at before this recent shift.
I want to get back to this discussion, but we need to take a break right now. If you want to get in touch with Joe or I or anybody at the Dan Beer Group, you can reach us at 800-676-2420. Listen to News Radio 600 KOGO with my boy Joe. We'll be right back after the break. We're going to talk about the escrow process. We're going to talk about we're going to finish the discussion we just had with Joe, and we'll see you back after the break. Welcome back. This is News Radio 600 KOGO, Real Estate Exposed with Dan Beer from Keller Williams, the Dan Beer Group, beer just like the drink, and Todd Pianin, that's me from Home Street Bank. Our boy Dan is at another learning. He's, because he's out there learning and talking and speaking to people. He's out today. He'll be back next week. We can't wait to see him because we miss him. But in studio today, we have his listing specialist, Joe McShane. Joe, let's get back to our conversation. So you go on a listing appointment right now, and you got 4 houses on the block, and you come to my house, and you ask me, I say to you, I want to list. Union Tribune tells me I should list 6%. We're up 6%. So I want to list 6% above what my neighbors are listed at. What do you tell them?
Well, I would simply ask you, I'd say, Todd, do you want to sell your house as fast as possible for the most amount of money?
Yes.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, I do. Of course I do.
Well, that's good news. Yeah. Well, we've got these other properties that are very similar to yours that are priced at this, and here's the inventory time that they've had. Todd, my goal isn't that I'm going to pick the sales price for your home. My goal is that we're going to deliver the entire marketplace for a home like yours so that they can compete. And the number we pick, that's just a sticker price to get people in the door so that they can take part in a competition for your house. This isn't a traditional one-off showing process.
Wait, so what you're saying to me is that if I tell you, let's say I want to list my house, let's say then my neighbor sold for 410.
Your neighbor sold for 410, okay.
And I had a matching floor plan. So I tell you I want to list my house for 434.
Understandable.
Because the Union Tribune told me I can get 6% more for my house because that's what San Diego is, up, which that was a year statistic, not a month-over-month statistic. But that's the way I'm thinking. What's your comment back?
So my comment back would first and foremost be, let's just take it from a really granular standpoint. Let's just say that 410 was the record setter for your model.
Right.
Right? So, yeah, it says it's up, 6%, but we still don't have on a sheet of paper anybody that's been achieving that price point. And even if they had been achieving that price point, I would want to know exactly why, what the differences were in that house. But let's just go off the argument that 410 was the record sale in the neighborhood, and you want to get 430. Well, what I know is that we advertise at 430. We put that out there that we not only want to break what the record holder had, but we want to shatter that record by, $24,000.
Right.
What I know about setting records in sales with Dan, and we've done this a lot, is that delivering the market to compete in it can bid that up. But if you and I just had one of those experiences, right? We did, yeah. over on Burnwood,
yeah,
right, yeah. Where we kind of figured that the value might be, somewhere. I can't really talk about price for an escrow right now.
Right, correct.
Needless to say, it sold.
You had multiple offers. You had like 10, 15 offers on that property,
exactly.
Right? I mean, you basically brought the market. So what the Dan Beer Group does and what Joe and Dan do as listing specialists for the Dan Beer Group, what you guys are actually doing is you're not setting the price. You're actually bringing the market, which is setting the price. So I can say I want to list it for 34, but that's a sticker price. And that could be sticker shock for somebody. They may not want to come to see the house. Mm-hmm. So you guys are actually just going to we could list the house at 400 for the sake of argument. You may tell me to list the house at 395 or 390 to bring more of the market to the house, right? And then it's gonna achieve whatever price you're gonna achieve. You're gonna bring the market to the house.
Absolutely. It's going to be a situation where the market comes to compete for it. That doesn't mean that we devalue your house. Going back to that model, if the record sale was $410,000 and you want $430,000, that's what your want is. That's not what the market has proven for sales in your neighborhood. We have to pay very close attention to empirical data that we have that says, hey, here's what people are willing to write checks for. If we could just make more money by pricing houses up, why wouldn't we just list your house for $500,000 or $600,000?
That doesn't work?
It doesn't work. No, it doesn't. It would be great if it did.
Right. Why doesn't it work?
But we have to engage people because buyers will only show up to compete for something if they believe that there's value in it.
Well, this is the 5-day blitz that we talk about at our home seller seminar, right?
Exactly.
You know, that Dan and I and you and Brian all participate in, that we do around the county, and Dan and I are talking about doing one in October.
Yeah.
So if we do one in October, we're going to let you, the listeners, our listeners know, our News Radio 600 KOGO listeners know right away. Hey, if you want to get a hold of Joe, myself, Brian, Dan, anybody, you can give us a call at 800-676-2420. 800-676-2420. You can find Dan and his team at SanDiegoHomeFinders.com. You can find me at Todd Piana at Home Street, or you can find us on Facebook. If you missed an episode, because we've had a lot of great episodes recently, we have a podcast. Please rate us on our iTunes podcast. So, Joe, back to the comment. We talk about. So let's talk about this whole process of coming into a home and seeing what the media is a buzz about, saying that values are going up. Has the values gone up? Have we seen shorter times on market or longer times on market?
Well, we're seeing it.
Not for you specifically, your team, but I mean as San Diego globally. Inventory
times are growing, right? And I'm not talking about like now we're looking at houses are taking 6 months, a year to sell. No, but right. Inventory times are growing from what they were at.
But some are, right? If you're in the over $1 million range.
Absolutely. If you're in the luxury communities right now, similar to say 2004, if you went into Santa Luz and you said, "Hey, how are things going here in 2006?" They'd say, "Well, not really that well." But if you went down to a different neighborhood, more a cookie cutter neighborhood, you say, "How are things?" People would say, "Great." Right. Well, it affects the luxury neighborhoods first, and then it trickles down to everybody else.
Right.
Well, that's what we're seeing right now, like you mentioned, Todd. And inventory times are just drastically up in those particular neighborhoods. But now we're starting to see some of it trickle down into different areas where, inventory time is growing. But articles like this still give sellers the idea that prices are still increasing. Well, they are, because people are still pricing their homes at what they thought that they should get maybe last October or maybe this April and what they were getting.
Right.
But things change rapidly. The market isn't something that just stays stagnant. It's always moving, shifting, and changing. And if you want to get the most amount of money for your home and you want to sell your home as quickly as possible, because I don't know, Todd, in your $410,000, $430,000 house, do you want it to sit on the market for 6 months?
No.
Absolutely not.
No.
So would you then see value in having someone come out and give you valuation onto exactly what would be the best way to achieve those two goals for you so you can get on to what's next?
Yeah, of course.
Well, then anybody that's listening should give us a call. I would be happy to provide that for you.
800-676-2420. You can call Joe. We don't like to pump ourselves up on, as much, but they're doing an unbelievable job. They're getting multiple offers on lots of homes. I'm spending lots of Saturdays and Sundays cross-qualifying a lot of clients for Joe and Dan because they're setting the market, so to speak. So Joe, I mean, market across the board, you would tell us that the market is slowing down.
Absolutely. The market is definitely slowing down, and articles like this are just going to continue to proliferate.
Will also make your job harder, right? Those kind of articles.
Well, it certainly will. Articles like this give people a false impression of what's really happening. Right.
So you guys are listening to News Radio 600 KOGO, Real Estate Exposed with Dan Beer from Keller Williams and Todd Pianin from Home Street Bank. If you want to get in touch with us, you can reach us at 800-676-2420. Get in touch with myself or Joe at that number. Again, 800-676-2420. You can find us on iTunes. You can find us on Facebook. You can go to SanDiegoHomeFinder.com, and that's going to give you, that's Dan's own website, and I think it's the largest website or largest privately owned website in the county for a realtor. So, I mean, if you want to find out what your value is worth, I think you can go there and check that out. So, again, when we come back after the break, what we're going to do is we're going to talk to you about the
escrow.
We're going to talk to you about the escrow process. Take you through the whole process, and kind of take you through as if you were selling your house. And Joe's going to walk us through and talk about hurdles and things that could happen throughout the process. Again, News Radio 600 KOGO, Real Estate Exposed with Dan Beer from Keller Williams, Todd Pianin from Home Street Bank, and we'll be right back after the break. Good morning. You're listening to News Radio 600 KOGO, Real Estate Exposed with Dan Beer from the Keller Williams Group. Beer like to drink, the #1 realtor in San Diego County, and Todd Pianin from Home Street Bank. You can reach either one of us at 800-676-2420. In studio today on this beautiful Sunday, we have Joe McShane from the Dan Beer Group. He's a listing specialist. And what we talked about before the break was that Joe's actually going to take us through the whole process of when I sell my house, the escrow process.
Absolutely.
So, Joe, I'm kind of excited because it's been a couple of years since I've been through this escrow process since I bought my house.
Mm-hmm.
So, tell me take me through it.
So it's one of the least talked about things in real estate. Everybody's caught up in this. Oh, how much is my house worth? It's this. There's these TV shows, the Flipping Brothers, and nobody ever talks about, well, what is the escrow process? Right. So, Todd, let's go back to that $410,000 house. We sold it for $430,000. We have all the signatures on all of the documents, and now it's time to open up escrow.
Right. I saw on TV you can close in like 3 days, right?
No, I haven't seen that TV show.
$1 million listing, they close like in 3 days.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. If you've got $1 million in your pocket and you just hand it over and you don't want to do any inspections,
got it.
Then you can close in 3 days.
Got it.
But if you want to do your due diligence,
okay,
it would behoove you to maybe push it to 4 days.
Talk about the what are some of the due diligence? What's some of the things?
So first and foremost, in the original offer, you're going to set up your contingency periods for your loan, for your appraisal, for an HOA.
What's a contingency period?
So a contingency period is just time for you to do an investigation. Let's just talk about the loan. Well, we'll talk about the loan last. That's yours. Let's just talk about the investigation contingency.
Okay.
This is, the inspection contingency. The inspection contingency, this is you having your inspector come out to the home and do a complete and detailed inspection of the home to find out any type of defects that are going on with that home so that you can then put together your request for repairs.
Wouldn't the seller tell me all the defects before?
There are going to be disclosures, but there's just things that they don't know about it. Most sellers don't know that they might have a toilet ring where the toilet's a little bit loose that could, lead to leaking. What's the number one thing that I see? A tub diverter, right? The little handle you pull, you get your shower, you get your bath.
Right.
That's always bad. Sometimes you find things that are wrong with the heating and air conditioning. Maybe there is some loose tiles that you have on your roof. Maybe the fence needs to be, readjusted.
So basically, it's like getting your car inspected before you're going to buy it. You're getting a once-over from a professional.
Right.
Do I pay for that, or does the seller pay for that?
You would pay for the buyer. The buyer is going to pay for it. You're not going to pay for that, right? Think of it as like Carfax for the house that you're going to buy.
Okay. So then now I get a list of stuff.
You get a list of stuff that.
How long do I have to get this guy to come out to the house and check under the hood?
Well, essentially, like you're the seller of the house,
yes.
right? So we'll say that the buyer, Mike's the buyer.
Yep.
Congratulations on your new home. So Mike sends over his, inspector that they're usually going to send out sometime in the first 3 to 10 days because these contingency periods are tightened for a very specific reason, so you don't have all the time in the world. Mike sends over his inspector. He takes a look at the house. Mike gets the report. Mike's agent sends to me, representing you, his request for repairs. I then present that to you, and we go into a negotiation.
That happens all the time?
Every single deal that this happens with every deal.
So what if I wanted to sell the house as is? I didn't say I was going to do any work on the house.
Well, you reserve the right to say no to every single thing that's there. However, if you say no to it and Mike decides to walk away because you don't do any repairs, you have all of these material facts and a report that you now legally have to disclose to whoever else comes into the home.
Got it.
You can sell homes as is. I have a property that's being sold as is right now. It's an investment property.
Right.
It's significantly discounted.
Right.
But they can still ask for things. There's nothing that's saying you can't ask. So that's just
that
one
can
example.
happen. That happens in the first 10 days of escrow.
That's going to happen in the first 10 days. People are going to want to have, it's San Diego. You're going to want to have a termite report. You're probably going to want to have termite clearance. It's called T1 clearance, just to make sure there's no infestations or wood rot in the home.
Got it.
These are all of the minor, but relatively big things that affect your pocketbook.
So as Brian being the buyer specialist, if he's representing the buyer for the sake of argument, he's going to help the buyer go through this and then provide the information to you as a listing specialist of anything that could be wrong, a termite problem, all these things.
But exactly, this is also a negotiation though, because the buyer wants as much for as little, and you want as little for as much.
Right.
So you want to have somebody that's strongly negotiating on your behalf.
Ping pong.
Right.
Correct.
But now we get into some of the other things. Like, Todd, let's talk about how long does it take to close on a house? I'm talking about the inspections, but on the escrow side, the loan side, the financing side of it, how long is it going to take to close on a home? We're talking about the loan contingency now.
Right. Well, most of the people, when you send it to us, we already have most of their information. So we usually get what do you put in your deal? 17-day loan contingencies usually?
Specifically right now, 17 days. In a slower time of the season, we might do 14, but it's just busy in the summer.
Right, because it's also busy, but we also have a refinance boom going on right now.
Correct.
So within 17 days, we usually get the buyer. We'll get the buyer get their loan approval.
Okay.
So if let's say they don't get approved for the loan, can they just walk away from the house?
If they don't get approved for the loan, can they walk? So long as they do it within their contingency period. If you release your contingencies,
right,
you are subject to losing your initial deposit.
Got it. And how much would an initial deposit be?
You're looking at an initial deposit on your home is usually going to vary between 1% and 3% in a conventional purchase. Less for FHA and VA sometimes, but there's no set rule or law for what it has to be.
What is the Dan Beer Group like to have their people do?
We like to get it to as close as 3% as possible.
So listen, we're still listening to Real Estate Exposed here on KOGO 600 News Radio 600 KOGO. You can get in touch with Joe, myself, Dan, Brian, anybody on our Home Street Bank, me at 800-676-2420. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on iTunes if you missed an episode. But right now, Joe McShane from the Dan Beer Group is taking us through the escrow process. Keep going, Joe.
So I've got a question for you, Todd, that I know the answer to, but I want to hear your answer.
Mm-hmm.
How much paperwork does it take to get a mortgage?
A lot these days. Depending upon the purchase price, depending upon what the person does. But I can tell you that we have a client that was referred to as a friend of Dan's actually for a refinance, and she sent me something like 60 emails yesterday, and each one contained multiple PDFs and multiple things. So it can take a lot. But if it's a traditional just W-2 employee, sometimes it's not that much. Sometimes it can just be a W-2 and a pay stub and verification of the down payment, and that's all we need. So it just depends upon the sophistication of the client and the purchase price and how much money they're putting down. So it's not I can't give you a blanket answer.
Well, right. There isn't like a blanket answer to it, but is it something that you see increasing as time goes on, as more rules, laws, restrictions, or is this something that is...
we're actually heading the other direction.
We're heading the other direction. So we're going to have looser.
We're having looser... we're asking for less stuff except for the self-employed individuals. Then we're seeing... it can be a little bit more challenging, and we ask for a little bit more paperwork. We have a woman that Dan referred to us, and I couldn't, at the time, the rate she was being quoted was amazing. We couldn't do anything for her, and she was with one of the big banks, and she was through the process. It's 90 days later, she called me back and said, I still haven't gotten approved. It's now time to go to you.
Right.
So that is the person we're talking about last night that we got all the information from.
So as we're going through this escrow process, what are the big ones where I see deals that fall out of escrow, right? Sometimes people just back out immediately because maybe something happens. But the big ones that I see where there's issues is the inspection.
Yep.
What's on this inspection report? What do I have to do?
Cracked foundation, something wrong with the chimney, roof, air conditioning, that kind of thing. Right?
Something comes up, or there's that awful M word, and it rhymes with cold.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about it yet.
We're not going to talk about it.
Right.
Sometimes that can pop up. But I also see loans.
He was talking about mold.
I see deals that fall out for, loan issues.
Yes.
And let's just educate some of our listeners. Like, why do deals fall out because of loan issues? Why do they fall out of escrow because of loan issues? What's your experience with that?
I'm going to give you the short answer because we're going to go to break on this, but I'm going to give you the short answer on that. Short answer is a lot of people don't ask the right questions or don't do their due diligence that they need right away. So meaning that there's a lot of young people in the mortgage industry right now, and a lot of people aren't doing enough due diligence on the client and making sure that they miss stuff that they should have caught right away. Like, I know that a lot of people will go into escrow on something, let's say even a condo, and they'll say they want an FHA loan, but they don't realize that they're new in the industry, that they have to make sure the condo project is FHA approved. So then all of a sudden, boom, deal blows up. Deal could blow up because someone didn't look at their tax returns properly and realize there's something called 2106 expenses. There's a whole bunch of reasons, and there's a reason why your group uses us, and we work together really well because we do a lot of due diligence up front, and we do a lot of your cross qualifications. So when we come back, though, I have some questions. Good Good morning, San Diego, on a Sunday morning. It's News Radio 600 KOGO. You're listening to Real Estate Exposed with Dan Beer from the Keller Williams Group, Beer Like the Drink, and Todd Pianin from Home Street Bank. You can find us on Facebook, iTunes, podcasts. You can find us, Google us. You'll find us all over the place, or you can reach us by phone at 800-676-2420. So who we have in the studio today is we have Joe McShane. Joe works as the listing specialist as part of the Dan Beer Group, and Dan is right now the Dan Beer Group is currently number one in the county for most transactions, and I think either one or two in volume, or I've got them reversed. Dan's not here to tell us because Dan's at another learning event, and he's going to be back next week, so we can actually ask him again next week. But I have a question. We went out and we talked about the escrow process. Let's just finish that up real quick, Joe. Typical escrow process, 30 days. Yeah, 30 days. Mm-hmm. Right? You could close your house in 30 days.
You can close your house in 30 days.
So we're seeing most of that happen, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's predominantly what I see. 30 days. Sometimes you'll see 45 or 60 if you're dealing with a contingent offer, but 30 days is pretty much the standard.
Whether they work with us or they work with any of the big banks, are you seeing 30 days close?
Well, I mean, that can get tricky. Like some of the big banks, I have one right now that fell out with a big bank because they had issues with underwriting, and it was just a cluster.
Got it.
Right. So lender delays have been the biggest thing preventing closes on time as of right now, and for all of the factors that we talked about of what's going into that. Right? There's a million moving parts. Most people are going to write in their offers a 30-day escrow.
So I can get my check in 30 days, basically.
If you've got a strong lender.
Right. Hopefully. But if I sell my house with you guys, hopefully I close in 30, 45 days, maybe 60. But I'm going to close. It's not going to be the 3 days I see on $1 Million listing.
Absolutely. Todd, I would say to you what I say to all of our clients. Todd, I've got an offer in here. It's a 30-day escrow. It's 17-day loan contingency, 14-day for all other contingencies. Right. Just so you know, the person who's buying this home is working with their agent and their lender. I can stay on top of them, but I can't force them to do anything. I can just be constantly present and be able to give you updates. But if something is to happen on their side, on their financing side, like I can't just drive over there and say, "Hey, I'm Joe from the Dan Beer Group. Let's put on a pot of coffee and figure this out."
Right. But the good news is most of those people have been cross-qualified by us.
Correct.
And that way you can pick up the phone and say, "Okay, go work with Todd and Taisha and try to get this thing closed if something goes sideways."
Absolutely.
So let's talk about Joe. Recently joined the Dan Beer. You've been now 6 months, 9 months.
Dan hired me in November, and I started in January.
So I was pretty close.
You were very close.
8 months. 8 months. And so I want to ask a couple questions. You got a minute?
I've got a minute.
Okay. So what drove you to decide to want to get into real estate?
Well, I come from a real estate family.
Okay.
My uncle owns a pretty large company in Illinois. Mm-hmm. And so I've always been surrounded by it.
Right.
My mom worked with Target when Target was just getting started, and Target operates and tries to pick up places. So real estate has always been something that has just been present in my life. And my mentor out here, my college roommate's father, owns a real estate investment company out here. So it's just been everywhere that I've gone, and I've always been enthralled with it.
Got it.
So I end up, I moved to San Diego. I get plugged into managing investment portfolios for single-family residents, multifamily residents, and that's actually how I met Dan.
Right.
I was actually managing Dan's portfolio, unbeknownst to me.
Right.
And Dan actually walks into our office one day, doesn't ring the doorbell, doesn't knock on it. We had an interesting office setup downtown, and there's just this guy walking around downstairs. And I didn't know his name. I knew who Dan Beer was because and I was about to ask him to leave because he was, he was just in there.
Right.
And one of the guys from upstairs came downstairs and said, "Oh, this is Dan." I met Dan, and we ended up just hitting it off. And I ended up having a conversation with Dan. I got introduced to his team, and I was really attracted to the idea of joining a team in real estate.
So is a team different than working for just one person?
A team's really different, specific for me, right? A lot of people operate really well individually. I like the idea of a team because the opportunity to serve our clients is enormous with this team that we have. Everybody's compartmentalized into doing one thing, and it's the one thing that they do the best.
Right. So that's
right?
good. So you guys get hyper focused.
We get hyper focused. Like I
what
just
you
work
wanna-
with sellers. I don't drive buyers around on Sunday showing them homes all over the county. No, I just work with sellers.
So now in the 9 months you've been there, you're happy, obviously super happy with your choice, and we're happy to have you part of the team. Let's ask you some more specific questions. What is there a certain book that when you started working for Dan, is there a certain book that he made you read?
He didn't have a particular book that he made me read, but I'm a bit of a reading junkie anyways.
Mm-hmm. So what's your favorite book what would be a good book to tell our listeners to read right now?
I just started reading a book called Essentialism, and it's absolutely fantastic. Not only for whatever you're trying to do professionally, but it also has like how to manage your personal life and the way that you structure your time to optimize and free up more time for you to just accomplish the things that you want to accomplish without guilt or remorse for what you can and can't do with your time.
Got it. And so another question I have for you is, what do you like to do for fun? What do you do when you're not working? Which I'm assuming that there's not a lot of time for you not to be working.
Well, I think that I've kind of got the best of both worlds where I absolutely love what I do, and I couldn't have asked to have landed in a better spot with a better group of guys. Like, Todd, you're fantastic. I love these radio shows. I love working with Dan. In my free time, I'm a hockey guy.
Nice. So
Right.
you play hockey.
I do.
Got it.
Sunday
Nice.
mornings, UTC. Come down and watch us. There's a food court above it.
I know, Panda Express.
Panda
Go there all the
Express.
time.
Yep.
Go there
Have
all
a
the
little
time.
orange chicken, watch a little pickup hockey, and
Well, we appreciate you being here this Sunday morning with us, Joe, and we look forward to many more Sundays together because I know that you come in every now and again when Dan is off and in traveling. So I just want to say this is News Radio 600 KOGO. You can reach Dan and I at 800-676-2420, 800-676-2420. I'm Todd Pianin from Home Street Bank, member of the FDIC, equal housing lender, NMLS ID number 304014. Look for us on Facebook, iTunes. Rate us. We want to hear from you. 800-676-2420. Have a wonderful Sunday. We're out of here.